Welcome back to our question and answer sessions with Father Stephen. That's me. I just wanted to mention that sometimes the camera cuts out. So some of the videos, they've kind of been cut short, sometimes even my homilies. So sometimes it's because my storage is full, sometimes the battery dies, sometimes there's just weird things that happen and we don't know why. So I apologize for that in advance. And I'll get to our next question. Hi, Father Stephen. In your part 16 comments, you put more emphasis on women's clothing, what sometimes comes up often when speaking with younger women. Why is it okay for guys to wear tight shirts and pants to show off their butt or pecs, etc., but it is considered whorish when women do the same and consider that? I get it, men are more visual. I just feel like it's a double standard that is geared to insult women. Thanks, Father. Okay, so the person referred to my part 16 comment. So I guess that is question and answer number 16, and I'm not sure what that is referring to. I didn't have time to go back and look at it. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit too busy. But I probably referred to the message of Our Lady of Fatima, where she said that fashions will be introduced that will lead many into sin. And I mentioned the miniskirt, the high heels, things like that. In other words, I was clearly referring to women's clothing. And yes, I think it's true that men need to be modest. They should not be wearing tight shirts that reveal their muscles or tight pants or whatever it may be. They also should not be wearing shorts. And so, yes, I did refer primarily to women. And I think that it is especially men who are troubled by how women sometimes dress. So women are a little bit more sensible than men when it comes to sexuality. And of course, there are some exceptions. There are always exceptions. But men are easily stimulated visually. So men are very visual, and just visual appearance of a woman can stimulate a man. So if she has sex appeal and she's making that evident, a man is going to, have inclinations or might have kind of sexual thoughts pertaining to that woman. Whereas if a man dresses inappropriately, some women might just think, what's the matter with that guy? So women are less likely to be moved just by the good looks of a man. Now, I'm not saying women aren't attracted to good-looking men. I'm not saying that, especially if a man is very good-looking and he's, has a nice figure. Of course, that's going to appeal to women, but they're not going to be as lustful as men are, at least not most of the time. So men are like that. And, the reality is that women have a monthly cycle. Men have a 24-hour cycle. What does that mean? It means that men are always ready to go. They're ready. Whereas for a woman, when she ovulates in her monthly cycle, that is the time that she is most sexually inclined. Whereas for men, they're always sexually inclined. So it's just differences between men and women. It's interesting. Often at some of these very large malls, I go to these malls and I notice these stores that's advertising women's lingerie, and they have pictures of attractive women. And granted, I try not to look. I do notice. I do see it. Okay. But I've never gone into one of these women's lingerie stores, and I would assume that there isn't a men's section in these women's lingerie stores. I've never been in. But the point I'm trying to make is I don't see any men's lingerie stores being advertised. I don't see men on billboards in sexy underwear. And why is that? So the people who are promoting their products, they know what sells. So in women's lingerie stores, they're not really trying to sell to women. They're trying to get men to get their women to buy that kind of lingerie. So if women were turned on by men in sexy underwear, I'm sure that there would be advertisers advertising men in sexy underwears. But the point I'm trying to make is that's not happening in these big malls. And that just kind of confirms my point that men are more visual than women are. So, okay. Now, to say that women, or to emphasize that women more so than men should dress modestly, is not to insult women, as the person was implying. Or to say that if women dress inappropriately, like I never said they're dressing whorishly or like a whore, but some people would make that statement. So what we are saying is that women, you are very attractive, you do have sex appeal, and if you don't want men to be focused only on your body or your body parts, we encourage you to dress modestly and not to advertise your sex appeal. So that's all we're saying. Now, there's been a number of articles in the news recently regarding this topic. One particular article pertains to someplace in Europe, I can't remember where, but a woman was attacked and beaten because she was wearing a miniskirt. Okay, it was an attack by someone in a different religion, Islam, and they have this attitude that women need to be completely covered, so we don't go to that extreme. And why is it that these men are so bothered by these women who wear mini skirts or whatever it may be? And the reason is because they don't want to commit sin. They don't want to be aroused. So there is a point to be made to that, but it's no right to beat up a woman, right? So it's true, women have freedom. They can dress as they want, but women need to dress responsibly, and they need to realize that how they dress, how they look, how they appear is going to have an effect on the people around them, and they need to understand what that effect is. Now, there was another interesting article, and it pertained to an expedition in the Arctic. So there's a crew of members, scientists, who go to the Arctic to study the ice melt and various things like that, and there's women on board this ship, and they're isolated on this ship for many months. So it's just some men and some women, and it's the same women. And some of these women are attractive. And these men on this ship, they're the only women that they see. And there was an issue of these women dressing in tight clothing. And there was kind of a complaint filed. And the women were asked by someone in charge not to dress in tight clothing or shorts or anything that was revealing. And the women resented it, and they made some comments. So here's something that was stated by some of the women. It just triggered a lot of widespread resentment, this idea that women should be responsible for managing the behavior of men. So managing the behavior of men. Now, it's not that women need to manage the behavior of men. No, it's that women need to understand that if they dress a certain way, some men will have a certain reaction, and women need to be prepared for those consequences. It was pointed out in this article that the majority of women are sexually harassed. So even if they don't dress inappropriately, they might be sexually harassed. If they do dress provocatively or in a way that advertises their sex appeal, they're much more likely to be sexually harassed. So if women don't want to be sexually harassed, then yeah, maybe they should dress more modestly. Now, one of the statements by the women went on to say, the assumption that if a woman wears something fitted, then she's inviting harassment, that's just so gross. So she's not inviting harassment. So the trouble is that she's turning a guy on. How he deals with that turn on depends upon him, his formation, his religious background, his religious beliefs. So whether the woman is harassed or not is going to depend on that guy, his formation. So even if she isn't dressed provocatively, she could still be harassed. I'm not saying she won't be. But if you're turning a guy on by how you dress, then the likelihood of you being harassed increases. That's the point. Now, 50 years ago or more, people didn't dress the way they do today. I had referred to the prediction of Our Lady of Fatima. This was way back in 1917, or just after Our Lady appeared to Sister Lucia later on. So I can't remember when exactly Our Lady made that statement, but certainly things have changed. And I mentioned in one of my homilies that I once did a funeral, and I drove in the funeral coach, or I went with the funeral director, and it happened to me to be Mr. Paul O'Connor. There was an article of him in the Catholic Register recently that he's celebrating his 70th birthday. 70th marriage anniversary. So he's been married for 70 years. So I don't know how old he is, but he's probably 90 years old. So anyways, we got talking, and we got onto the topic of pornography, and he was saying when he was young, they didn't have all these things. And he said he remembers the first time he walked into like a corner store, and there was a magazine that was depicting a woman's belly button. And he said for them back then, when he was a young child, that was pornography. So we've come a long way from that. Do you remember the Spice Girls and how they dressed? You know, those very, very low-cut pants, and their whole midsection is showing, and very, very revealing clothing. And people started coming to church like that. Thank goodness we went through that phase, and it's no longer popular. But the point is that people today often dress in ways that people didn't dress in the old days, both men and women. But the impact in regards to the sexualization of women, in other words, the impact is more in regards to women. Women have become more sexualized. In most of the advertising that you see, you have very good-looking, very sexy women. Most women don't look like that in real life. And they advertise their curves and their sexual, innuendos, and even the sexualization of children is happening. So even young children will sometimes wear things that are inappropriate. So it's happening. Now I wanted to quote to you something that was written in I guess it's a men's magazine or a men's organization. It's called Real Men. So this is what they wrote. Dear girls, dressing immodestly is like rolling around in manure. Yes, you will get attention, but all of it will be from pigs. So this is men saying this. So they're saying, if you advertise your sex appeal, you're going to attract men who are just interested in your sex appeal. They're just interested in your body. They're not interested in you. They're not interested in getting to know you or to respect you. They just want to get it on with you. So if you want to be respected as a woman, don't advertise your hardware. This is what they're saying. And there's a lot of sense to that. I also wanted to quote to you from the scriptures. And this is from Isaiah chapter 3, verse 16 to 18. The Lord says, "The women of Zion are haughty, walking along with outstretched necks, flirting with their eyes, strutting along with swaying hips, with ornaments jingling on their ankles. Therefore the Lord will bring sores on the heads of the women of Zion. The Lord will make their scalps bald." So, what is this referring to? Well, the women of Zion, they're haughty, they're flirting with their eyes, they're looking at men trying to seduce them. They walk in seductive ways, they manifest their ornaments, and they have their necks up high and kind of, oh, look at me kind of thing. So they are punished by the Lord. So whether it's a woman who does this or a man, it's inappropriate. But men usually don't have a lot to advertise. Like, our bodies are not as appealing as women's bodies, and it's just a reality. So a man walking around with an outstretched neck, some woman's going to look at him and think, what's the matter with that guy, right? But men are easily seduced by women. Why? Once again, because men have a 24-hour cycle, sexual cycle, and they're more visual. So it's very easy for a woman to manipulate a man, to seduce a man, simply by how she appears, how she acts, and how she dresses. So the question, I suppose, that needs to be asked is, why do women dress the way that they do? Those women who dress inappropriately, why do they dress like that? What is their motive? Now, yes, as I mentioned, part of it has become a cultural norm. It's become acceptable, and a lot of women think there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But I do know that some women dress immodestly because they want attention. They want male attention. They want to be accepted by men. They want to be loved by men. And it's not wrong to want to be accepted and to be loved by men. But what do you want to be loved for? For your sex appeal or for who you are as a person? There was a wonderful talk by Jeanette Bankovich on EWTN. I don't usually watch TV, but I was at my parents'. There was this program, and she was asked about, well, what if a man is interested in a young lady and she dresses inappropriately? What should the man do? And her answer was that the man should tell her politely that, I really like you, I'm attracted to you, but I'm just distracted by your hardware, and I'd like to pay more attention to you. Can you please dress a little bit more modestly? Now, it's very hard to say that to a woman. They might feel offended, but in reality, they ought to be complimented, because the man is saying, I'm interested in you, not just what you have to offer in a sexual kind of way. So what is the motive? And if a woman is dressing in order to get male attention and male acceptance, she needs to address the issue of why she's so insecure. And if she is so insecure, what steps can she take to overcome that insecurity? So some women, because of their insecurity, they feel that they can control men by their sex appeal, and they love to flirt. So they purposely dress immodestly. They will purposely flirt just to get a reaction from men, so they feel that they are in control. And that's not a good thing. So we are all insecure to a certain extent, but if we realize that we are children of God, that we are loved by God, then we should be fulfilled. We should not feel insecure, and we can confidently go around and expect people to respect us for who we are, and not just to be attracted to us because the person is good looking or has sex appeal. I did want to read to you one other passage, and this is from 1 Corinthians 8, chapter 8, verse 9. Be careful, however, that the exercise of your rights does not become a stumbling block to the weak. Now, St. Paul is not referring to modesty here. There are other passages that do speak about modesty. I have quoted them in a previous talk. But what St. Paul is saying here is, okay, you have rights. You can wear tight-fitting clothing if you want, but realize that it could become a stumbling block to the weak. How so? You could lead them into sin. There are many men who are struggling with temptations to impurity, and simply a good-looking woman, especially if she's dressed immodestly, is going to trigger them off and possibly lead them into sin. Now, a man who's trying to be good, well, they might notice a woman who's got a lot of sex appeal because she's dressing inappropriately. Ideally, they turn away. And, okay, a lot of men can do that, or some men can do that. But what if the person is struggling and has a hard time, and even though he's just glanced at her, he turns away, the thoughts keep coming, and you've led this person into sin. And this is a very serious thing. So we should not be the cause of others sinning, and how we dress can make that difference. Now, if you go to the beach and, everybody's dressed in swimsuits, that's understandable because it's expected. But even there, the fashions for the swimsuits has changed a lot. Now, interestingly enough, men, they used to have these Speedo or whatever, very skimpy kind of swimsuits. And it was kind of popular in the 60s, I guess. And even in sports, men wore short shorts. Like in basketball, the basketball players had very short shorts. But as time went on, it's men have long bathing suits, big shorts, baggy shorts. Even in basketball, they have baggy shorts. Why is this? It's because the male body is not as appealing, not as beautiful as the female body. It just doesn't look appropriate for men to be wearing short shorts or Speedo swimsuits. So it's developed to be longer. However, the women's swimsuits fashion has remained the same or become even more skimpy. And that's not appropriate. So There are more modest styles of bathing suits that women can wear. So I'm not saying don't go to beach. I'm not saying don't go swimming. But the point is that, yes, men are more visual. Women have more attractive bodies. It's kind of obvious. There are a lot of men struggling with sin, and simply seeing a woman who's attractive, if she's dressed in tight, revealing clothing, that could be enough stimulus for a man to be led into sin. So whether you're male or female, we should all dress modestly and behave modestly. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for asking that question, and God bless you all.